What if 2026 was the year that you finally stopped feeling so freaking busy and burnt out on your creative missions and you actually felt like you were getting stuff done? Well, that's my goal for this year. And I've got 4 New Year's resolutions that I'm committing to that I want to share with you and see if they don't help us get a little bit more focused in 2026, because there is a lot of noise out there and definitely a lot of things to get distracted by. I've got one app that if you're not using it yet, in 2026, you damn better, because it will help all of us stay a lot more organized. And I've got a mindset shift that just might take your biggest time waster and turn it into the cheat code to improve your content this year. Let's get into it. Resolution number 1 for me is about productivity and keeping myself organized. And it's probably the most simple resolution you could come up with, but it's note-taking. I am going to get better in 2026 at writing more things down and keeping my notes more organized. That way, when I have an idea for a new video or something comes across my mind late at night, instead of stressing about it then and trying to keep it all in my mind, write it down, keep a note, and build those things out over time. That way, things don't get lost in the cracks. Now, there are thousands of different apps that can help you note take, and literally my belief is whatever is easiest and most accessible and removes the friction, that's the thing that you should go with. So to me, I really like, and call me old school for it, but I love handwriting notes down, especially when I'm in that ideation phase of trying to come up with an idea and different topics and different parts of that concept to talk about. I love just writing out a big brain map of different things that could be talked about or different things that I could go research to flesh out the video. Sometimes I write that on an actual notebook with actual paper, and the other times I really like using the Notes app with my iPad and my Apple Pencil, and literally I'll just sit there and kind of doodle. And the nice thing about the Notes app, which whatever works for you, if you've got something that works even better, great. But the Notes app is always there. It's on my phone, it's on my iPad, and it's on my computer. So it syncs together with all of my different projects. So if I put it in my phone, later on, I can go pull it up on my computer and maybe type out more information on it. So the cheat code to actually sticking to this resolution is removing the friction. To me, that's whatever is on the first page of my home screen. I keep my Notes app right on the first page of my home screen. That way, whenever I have an idea, I write it down and I don't let it sit in my brain for too long. Resolution number 2 is kind of tool number 2. I told you guys that we would go over an app that I've been using for the last couple of years that has seriously changed my game when it comes to staying organized with my content and ideas. So you've used your Notes app and you've flushed out an idea for a video that you really want to produce. How do you take that idea from a Notes app and then actually build it out into a content funnel that you can stay organized with and keep tabs on? And on top of that, can you leverage AI in some way to help you get some of those tasks done without totally removing the creative process that you're really good at, right? Insert Airtable. If you haven't heard of Airtable before, that's okay. I didn't either. I actually got dragged into it from a job that I worked on a couple of years ago and didn't love it then. And then I started building my own Airtables and I'm obsessed with it. It's basically like a spreadsheet, like a Google spreadsheet on steroids. Think of instead of just being able to put in numbers or formulas or text, you can put in anything to this Google spreadsheet. And you can use AI agents to actually call on pieces of that spreadsheet and create new information from it. Or create a column in your spreadsheet that uses an AI agent like ChatGPT to then go research things on the internet for you and bring it back into your spreadsheet. It is an incredibly powerful tool, and it has changed the way that I organize and track all my different projects. So let's get into it. Okay, so when you launch Airtable, this is kind of what it looks like. It should look very familiar like any other spreadsheet, either Excel or Google Sheets. It kind of looks similar to that. The difference is this is a database that can literally hold anything inside of those cells. So you're not limited to formulas or text or numbers. You can actually drop everything and anything into these cells. And then you can reference those cells in different ways, including using AI agents like ChatGPT to analyze different cells for you. So if you're somebody whose brain kind of likes spreadsheets, like me, I'm kind of a nerd, I like spreadsheets, this thing is like the next level of using spreadsheets. It's a full-on database set. And by the way, it's free. You can sign up, you can start using Airtable, and the only thing that you're limited to is AI credits each month, and those reset. So if you're working through things and you like using the AI agents, that's what happened to me. I started out on a free plan, like, no, I'm not paying for this. And then the tools and the utilization and the time saving that this app has given me, I started paying for it because I was like, you can't find all of these things anywhere else. So this is kind of what it looks like when you build out your first database set. And another cool feature is they actually have an AI agent built into their website, which will help you. Literally, all you have to do is tell it what you want to build, and it'll do all the hard coding for you and kind of build out this database. So to not dox and give away all of my podcast guests' information, I had Airtable come up with this mock-up spreadsheet of different guests and different topics to talk about. So this is essentially exactly what I use every day when I'm booking and working with podcast guests. It has all of our contact information right here, including their name, email, phone number, all of the things that we would need to access to get in contact and to kind of go through the booking process. It also has all their relevant information, including all of their social media links. So when I'm producing a podcast, I like to throw to their social media tags. This way I can keep all of that information organized and easily accessible. So on the day of production, I have all of this information. So this database is cool, but it actually gets even cooler when you build it into an application. And this is that same database, but built out in a visual way that actually accesses all of that different information into easy to use tabs. So I can click into each one of these to get more information on each of our guests. In this content generation tab, I've actually had ChatGPT go in and analyze each of their bios and then come up with some potential podcast titles right here. So these are things that I can use to either brainstorm new ideas or better. The work's done for me. The other thing that I've used this for when my guest has like a PowerPoint presentation is I can upload the PowerPoint into Airtable, and then I can have an AI agent actually read through slide by slide their entire presentation and then spit back out a summary for me that I can read. So instead of going through maybe a 30-page PowerPoint presentation, I have a simple, easy to read paragraph that tells me exactly what they're talking about. So I can start to think about the questions that I want to ask instead of spending all of that time reading and researching. Here's another page on what our actual podcast guests look like. We have them submit a headshot that stays in our Airtable file. And that way, whenever we're creating more marketing material or we need it for some other email blast, I've got all of that information stored and very easily accessible. Now, this isn't brand new, and lots of other spreadsheets you can add images to, but this is a completely non-compressed, non-destructive way of adding in files. This actually references the original headshot file rather than a super compressed version. That's a big deal later on when maybe you're building out a thumbnail and this is the headshot that you have to go from. If you're dealing with a 3 or 4 times compressed image, that's not going to look so great when you bring it in to edit it as a thumbnail. This way, it's fully uncompressed and I can have access to the full resolution file anytime I want. When we're onboarding new guests to come onto our podcast, I send them this form. They fill out the form and immediately that comes into my Airtable, and I have automations running so that once I get a new entry into my Airtable, it pulls all of that information, including their bio, their speaking summary, and any relevant information like maybe a PowerPoint that they attached for us, and it will analyze all of that for me, give me potential questions to ask as the podcast host. I even have a tab in here that takes all of that information that's entered and researched, aggregates it all together, and then comes up with specific SEO optimized keywords that I can use in landing pages or even in our YouTube description boxes. Another way that I love using Airtable is to keep all of that different content ideation organized and tracked from my head and then from my notepad into steps that I can actually take action on. So here's a quick example of a database tracking different YouTube video ideas from their creation to their note-taking, some research, and then into production and how that would look in Airtable. So you can see I've got different summaries for each of these different YouTube videos and different tags that target different niches. I have priority levels. And then as I go through and I'm working on different videos, I might be recording this AI for small business video this week. So I can move this over to filming. And as soon as I change that, it'll actually change over here in my visual output. So I can actually click on these and see which of these ideas are currently being filmed or still need work. I can also look here, which ones I have planned and which ones I'm working on right now. All of these visuals are hard-coded into the database and update in real time as things change on our content management tab. The calendar visualizer is another great way to keep track of projects that you're working on. And as you add in dates to your database, they'll automatically show up here in the calendar feed. All of this stuff was just built in like 15 minutes, prompting Airtable's AI agent to help build exactly what I want. And I gave it specifically the parameters that I wanted tracked, and it helped me build the rest. It asked me a few questions and it came up with this. Now, all of these tabs, all of these things are totally editable, and I can tweak this to exactly what I need at any given moment. Now, obviously, that is a very fast overview on an incredibly powerful tool. We could do an entire deep dive onto Airtable, and maybe we should. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to kind of see how I built these and how I go about prompting and tweaking our different databases that I use every single day. Let me know. Resolution number 3 for me has to do with moving a bunch of those projects in Airtable from in progress to completed. I'm really good at in progress. I want to get better at completed. A lot of times getting better and improving has to do a lot more with quantity than quality. I know that's kind of backwards from a lot of things that at least I was taught, but there's some studies to back that up. Here's some story time for you. In the book Art and Fear, there's a study that talks about an art teacher, specifically a ceramics teacher. At the beginning of the semester, she split her class into 2 halves. One half, she gave the objective to make one absolutely perfect piece of pottery. They had all semester to create one perfect piece of art. The other half of the class was given a task that said anybody that created more than 50 pieces at the end of the semester would get an A. They focused way more on the quantity that they were creating and less about the quality. At the end of the semester, the perfection half spent a lot more time pontificating and ideating on what would make a perfect piece of art. And the quantity half of the room objectively actually made better art. Part of that is because they were constantly trying new things, and by doing and creating, they were learning as they went, and each iteration of their pottery got better and better and better. So as they practiced more and put out more work, they were getting better. So to relate that over to what we do, rather than trying to make one perfect video or one perfect Instagram reel, we should aim more to be that half of the class that was just creating. Your content and your skills will improve so much more by just getting out there and putting it out there. So that's my resolution this year, is to spend less time being the half of the class that's trying to always make it perfect, and to be that half of the class that just gets 50 things done in a semester. And I told you we were going to take one of your biggest time wasters and turn it into your content secret weapon in 2026. My last resolution, which is maybe more of a tip or a mindset shift, everybody is guilty of the mindless scroll through TikTok or Instagram, right? But there's a way that you can actually use that mindless scrolling and time wasting, and rather than just getting those quick dopamine hits, you can actually use that mindless scrolling to improve your content instead of just scrolling through your phone and letting your algorithm tell you what you want and don't want to watch. Try and be mindful when you're scrolling. If you stopped on a video and you watched it for 15 seconds, why did you do that? Was it the caption? Was it the first hook? Those are things that you can pay attention to and notice about yourself. If you swiped right away from something and you didn't like it, or you didn't pause on it, you moved on to the next one, take a moment and think about maybe why did you scroll away so quickly? What was it about that piece of content that maybe didn't engage with you right away? Those type of notes are notes that we subconsciously react to every single day, but when we're actually in the seat of making the video or making the reels on Instagram, we might not be aware of as much. So mindful scrolling on Instagram, if you're going to take 10 minutes or 20 minutes out of your day to just scroll through Instagram or TikTok, use it to be mindful of why are you making certain decisions and what parts of that content were you resonating with or were you turned off of. When you notice those patterns in your content consumption, odds are your audience probably has similar sort of patterns. So the more you can be mindful and take notes on what you like versus what you don't, what made you stick, what hooks worked versus what didn't, the more you can put those notes into practice in your own videos and your own content moving forward in 2026. Anyway, those are 4 of my resolutions for this year. I hope you got some value out of it, or maybe you can apply some of those techniques or thought patterns to your own creative workflow. If you've got another resolution that you're sticking to that maybe I should be aware of, throw it down in the comments below. We're all here to make each other better. Until the next one, keep creating. Peace.